Hello, welcome to my channel. In our previous videos, we've been doing a lot on SSL, but all we've been doing so far have been on self-signed certificates. In this video, we want to take it a step further. We want to see how we can install a trusted certificate in an Azure virtual machine. So we are going to provision a VM on Azure, and we are going to be installing a trusted certificate, a free one by Let's Encrypt, and we'll be setting it up. We just want to see all the process, and we are going to be using a custom domain as well because you can't use a trusted certificate with IP address. I mean, because IP changes, so there must be a DNS label that is associated with that certificate. So let me share my screen. Hopefully, I don't want to talk too much. Yeah, let me share my screen. You should be seeing my screen right now. Yeah, so I believe my screen is visible. So the first thing we are going to do, obviously, is to create our virtual machine. And I'm doing that now. Creating the virtual machine. I'll still be working with an Ubuntu server. And I will most likely, I can pick anyone between Nginx or Apache. I'll most likely go with Nginx because I feel it's lighter. It's a lot lighter than Apache in my own opinion. So virtual machine name, let me just call it SSL um Ayokunle org. Let's use that. Um, Availability zone. I don't want that. I'll be deleting it. I'll be deleting everything um before I publish this on the internet. Okay. So I think this is good. Keep here. I'm going with stored on Azure, and I'll pick one of my keys. Pick this. Open ports 80 and 443. Okay, so I think this looks good. Let's change this from premium disk to standard SSD, and we can review and create. So we are provisioning the virtual machine now, Ubuntu 24.0.24.04 VM, Ubuntu Server. So one key aspect to this, and something you might have observed in our previous videos, is that at the end of this, we are going to have a virtual machine, but we are not going to be working with that virtual machine. We are going to be working with a domain name. So what I'm going to do is I will log into my domain registrar. I would I will log in there and I will add two records. I will add an A record and I will also add a CNAME. The A record will be pointing to this IP address for this virtual machine, and the CNAME will be pointing to my domain name. The CNAME will just ensure that to be accessible via www. Okay, but because my domain registrar is something I use in production, I have a lot of domain names there, and there are some confidential information around that. So I don't want to share the screen of my login into my domain registrar. I mean, on Azure, I can always delete everything here, but for my domain registrar, I can't delete my domain names, and I don't want it to be open to the internet. So I will just go on another browser and I will do that. But it's something very straightforward. all domain registrars, they have similar user interface. All you just need to do is log into it, click on DNS management, add an A record that points to this IP address. So this 74.249.161.172, this IP address, add an A record that points to it, then add a CNAME record that points to your domain name. So let me do that now because it takes time to propagate, and I do not want to do that after the web server has been installed because of the time lag. So let me just go on another browser. Hopefully you can't see my screen, and I will do that over here. So I am on my other screen, my other browser, another window, and I'm about adding the domain records now. So let me go to, I'm using our upper link, so you can always explore. You can, if you are thinking about a registrar to use, upper link is great. And I think what I like about them is that they are, um, the cost is a lot cheaper and they allow you pay in Naira. So it's loading now. Let me scroll down to DNS management. I believe I already copied the IP address. Let me paste the IP address over here. Yeah, let me save changes. Okay, so let me also add the CNAME. Let me add the CNAME. Okay, I think the CNAME is already there, so I'm good. Okay, so I've added the DNS records. So what I will do now is let's go back to, I believe you can still see my screen for my Azure. So we are going to be installing Nginx now. So I'll stop sharing. I'll share my terminal. I'll be sharing my terminal soon. So let me open my terminal. It's coming up. It's coming up. Okay, so let me share my screen now. Okay, so now let me enter the command so that we can SSH into this, take this out and put our IP address. Okay, so this is the IP address. I'm trying to log into the server now. Okay, so I'm in now. The first thing I want to do is to update. Okay, so afterwards, I'll be installing Nginx. Yeah, so now I want to install Nginx and it's very straightforward, just a single command, sudo apt install Nginx. That's all. So I'm installing Nginx now to be done soon. Okay. Yeah, so this is done. So let's just go back and confirm that our Nginx was installed successfully. So let me stop sharing. I'll go back to share my browser again. Okay, so I believe you can see my browser. So let me open a new tab and try to visit that URL. I try to visit it. It should give me the default Nginx page. Okay. If I also try to visit my domain name, it should also give me the same. But I hope it has propagated. Sometimes it can take a while, especially because I'm using a Nigerian registrar. I don't know how available their servers are. Let's see. It's taking some time. It's taking some time. Okay, um, so I was concerned about this. I know sometimes it can take a while. And also because I'm not using something like GoDaddy, HostGator, that would have been a lot faster. Um, it's just an A record. A record shouldn't take long. Just an A record. Okay, so while this is going on, what I would do is we can continue with our installation and hopefully this would start to work very soon. Let me go back to my register. Uh, okay. Um, okay, so while this is ongoing, let's just continue. I think we should just continue. Hopefully, by the time we are done with the installation of the SSL certificates, it would have um started working as it should. So let me go back to my terminal. Okay, so we are here. So now we want to install our SSL. Want to install our SSL. So the first command I'll be issuing will be we are going to be using setbots. So I'll just copy and I'll paste them. As I said earlier, we are trying to generate a trusted certificate. So let me copy. I'll come over here. I'll paste it. We'll first install setbot and would um, use it to generate our certificates. Okay. So we also have another command to run. Let me just copy it, still using setbots. And I'll modify it a little bit. Yokunle.org. And I'll also change this to www.ayokunle.org. Okay, so that's the command we are going to run. Yeah, to generate the certificates. Okay, email address. What email should I use? Do you agree? Yes. Well, that's fine. Okay, so we now have our certificates. We now have our certificate. And you can see the URL where the certificate is saved. etc let's encrypt live Ayokunle. That's where we have the certificates, the PEM, the certificate, both the private key and the actual certificate. You can see the certificate and the key because this is very fundamental because we have to reference the key and the certificate files in our web server. That's what will ensure that we can use HTTPS when accessing the domain. Okay, so what we'll do now, that's already done. The next thing we need to do now is we are going to, what we did in our previous video, we are going to the sites available and we want to enable port 443 and also reference the URL for the certificates. So we just visit, so let's see the /etc/. So let me just show you that this is here. So if we enter here, for example, and we ls, you can see the certificate information over here. Okay. So what I will do now is yeah, so what I'll do is let's go back to cd etc um Nginx sites available. Okay, so let's ls. We can see the defaults, which is what we are going to modify. So we'll do nano sudo nano defaults. Okay, so what I will do is I will remove the comment for listening on port 443 because that's the port for HTTPS. I will remove this comment. Then I also want to paste the location of the certificates. So let me just copy it. So I should have copied it. So what I will do is let me save this first. Then let me go and copy it from what we have here. Copy it. Um, I think I'll scroll up. It was up. Yeah, so this is it. This is the certificate file. Copy this too. Oh, let me select and copy rather than Control C. Right click, then copy. Okay. So let me paste in Notepad and make it beautiful before I just give me a moment to make it neat. So what we are doing is we are telling the web server where it should look for the certificates. It's a very essential part of what we are doing because if you don't do that, it wouldn't know where the certificate files are. I'm even more concerned about the propagation of our um, the A record I added because if that doesn't propagate, then before this, after we are done with this, then you won't be able to see the SSL certificate in action. I don't want that. I want us to see it that the certificate is valid. Okay, so I've done that. So let me copy. I'm going to the our nano now. Let me scroll down. Yeah, so let's go down. I'll paste it just below the site 443. Um, I think I can do it here. Let me right click and paste here. Yeah. Okay, so We have our certificate. Let me do some indentation to make it orderly. So you can see SSL certificate, and we have the paths, and we have the SSL certificate key, and we also have the paths. Don't forget your semicolon so that it can read it well. Remember, it's a configuration file. Okay, so now let me save this. Well, let me open it again. Let me scroll down. Let me check something. Okay, this is fine. The location, okay. Okay, I think this is fine. Okay, so this is fine. So we've added the certificate now, the trusted certificates. Okay, so one thing we need to do is to um, restart our server. We need to restart it. But before I restart it, let me confirm that, um, okay, let's restart our server first before I do any kind of confirmation. So let's go and restart our server by running, we are running it as a service. So sudo system control ctl restart Nginx. Okay. Yeah, so we've restarted it. Now, if we should visit the site, the only thing that will not allow it to work is because of the propagation of the DNS record, which is really, really sad. I don't know why it's taking time, just an A record. I don't know. So let me try it again. But um, what I would say is that if we should, so based on what we've done, aside from the propagation issue, now if we should visit https ayokunle.org, it should work, and we should have secure. We should have secure. But because of the propagation issue, it hasn't linked the IP address with our domain, but it should definitely be done in like 30 minutes time or something. But that's the end of the video. Um, that's the end of the video. So if you find something useful, don't hesitate to share, like, and subscribe. I hope we get the points. Hello, let me share my screen again. So I'm sharing my screen now. Okay, so I believe you should be able to see my browser now. So I slept off because we're having propagation issues. So I slept off. I woke up. I've not made any configuration changes. You can see the IP address. I copied the IP address from here. Then I go over here. When I visit, let me just visit it again. When I visit the IP address, my computer is a little bit slow, okay? So when I visit the IP address, it takes me to, okay, so because I already have the SSL set now and it's redirecting. So you can see previously we had this, the IP address, and we can, when we visit it, it gives us this. But because the SSL is in place now, we are having something like this. But notwithstanding, because we are using an IP address, that's why it's still saying it like a self-signed certificate. But if we should go and use the domain name, so I registered ayokunle.org. Let me try to use the one on port 80 first. Let's see, ayokunle.org. I'm not sure an automatic redirect. So an automatic redirect is already in place. So you can see it is a trusted certificate. When we click here, it tells us connection is secure. So we've been able to install the trusted certificate. So it probably propagated after like 30 minutes to an hour because I slept longer than that. So I'm not very certain how long it took before it propagated. So you can see it's working as appropriate now. So we have our trusted SSL certificates installed in our web server. So I'm not sure if I'll be merging the two videos together, or I would post just this one. But just in case I'm posting just this one, let me just give a quick review on what we did. So to be able to have a trusted SSL certificate. So we first of all we provisioned the virtual machine, and we had the virtual machine. We copied the public IP address. We used the public IP address to SSH into the server. Let me share my terminal now so that you can see what we did. We use the public IP to SSH into the server, and you can see the terminal shell is still open. The terminal window is still open. So afterwards, we installed Nginx. So this was the command we used to install Nginx. We installed Nginx. We first of all update, then we installed Nginx. And after installing Nginx, we install setbots, which is what we use to install the SSL certificate. And we tell setbot that we are looking at an Nginx web server. Then we created the SSL certificate and we specified the domain we want to use to create the SSL certificate. We fill some other basic details from the wizard. Then we referenced the SSL certificate in our web server. So we use Nano to edit the configuration file that contains information around um, how our web server respond to requests on ports 80 and port 443. And we also included the file path, a relative file path to, is it relative or absolute? I think it's absolute. An absolute file path to where our certificate files are stored. Then we restarted Nginx, and that's basically all you need to do to set up the SSL certificate. Then also remember that you need to open port 80 and port 443 in Azure. So that's all we need to do to set up our SSL certificates. So remember that because we are creating an SSL certificate for Nginx, that's why our command is like this. If it was some other web server, it would be a little bit different, but it's still the same set bot that we are going to install. Okay, so basically that's it for this video. I hope you find it helpful, you find it informative, you find it insightful. If you did, then please give it a like, a share, and don't hesitate to subscribe. Have a wonderful day till we see you.